Before you have certainty and clarity and confidence, there's courage. That's the tough part. Courage means I'm moving forward even though I feel and I'm hoping or thinking it may not go right. So that means I'm going to do it anyway. So before we hit confidence and certainty, which you see in a lot of movers and shakers, their confidence all started with courage. Courage is always, there's a stair step to confidence and certainty, and it's courage. We all have to be courageous.
Welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we take regular clinic owners and turn them into cash-based multimillionaire entrepreneurs. Warning, if you're a doctor who listens to this podcast regularly, you will make millions of dollars. Do not listen to this podcast unless you want to be a successful clinic owner who helps thousands of patients achieve their health goals and adds more money than you can imagine to your bank account. You've been warned.
Welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we take regular clinic owners and we turn them into super clinic owners. I'm your host, Jennifer Gligoric, and today's episode is going to be off the charts. We have world-renowned speaker, best-selling author, relentless entrepreneur, former Mr. America, and IFBB pro bodybuilder whose real-life story sounds unbelievable. He beat a deadly disease in his 20s to become a doctor and the visionary behind one of the world's largest wellness clinics, serving thousands each week. Get ready for inspiration, practical wisdom, and next-level breakthroughs. Please let us give a huge welcome to Dr. Chris Zaino. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Jen. Good. Always good. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. We actually had taped this show before and the recording did go through. So he has been very kind to be back here again today. But sometimes that's what we got to do because, we got to get the story and the inspiration out. One of the things that we talked about last time is that today's healthcare, for clinic owners, because that's who we're mostly talking to, is other docs, is really changing. And what worked 3 years ago isn't necessarily what's working today for many, and evolution is the key. And you are the master of evolution. So can you speak about how you've evolved over the years and then move into today's unique challenges?
Yeah, over the years, when I came out of school, it was something where you're always going to sign up with every single insurance company and go by that. And over time, you started to see insurance companies not covering as much, and you just hear doctors frustrated about it. So here, instead of focusing on patients, you were just hearing how much they were complaining about insurance companies weren't or weren't paying for. And then because I had more of a high volume clinic and my friends did, I started to see, clawbacks, audits coming on. And I remember one day, a buddy of mine was audited, and it's like 2, 3 in the morning. We're typing up notes for him because that was like, the joke. We didn't take great notes. And I was like, you know what? This is just a rough game to play. And it's gambling. So I'm like, okay, I want to go all cash. And then when I decided to go all cash, there's fear there because scarcity sets in. You're like, are patients going to want to pay out of pocket? All this stuff, these things go in your head. So I kind of, I had to force myself to raise my experience. So the first thing I did was counterintuitively, I rose my prices about 20 or 25%. Reason being, Jen, is it forced me to be like, okay, I'm not just lowering, I'm raising them because I don't want to act out of fear. So I raised them, and then that forced me to create an educational system through the process of the office that empowered the patient, educated the patient, created a certain experience that didn't have anywhere else so they could take ownership over their own health. So I could be more of a leader, not a savior, more of a coach to get them to take care of their own health. And it thrived, it did amazing, but it always kept me sharp because I just couldn't show up with my C game. I had to always do things for myself personally to make sure the office was educating the best we could. And we developed systems and videos, and I got private coaching to speak and communicate the best I could. And that translated into outreach and marketing.
So do you feel like it was the education piece that most propelled the trust factor with the patients? Because when people, they really trust you can get them there, then it's just, well, what is the outcome I want? Well, it's going to cost this to get to that outcome. And then what insurance will pay in the price really isn't an option. Do you feel like that was really your secret sauce?
Yeah, education and value. You could have went down the road to the joint for a $25 adjustment. It got to the point, Jen, where massages were costing more money cash and people were paying than an adjustment. It was getting weird. And so it's like, well, people lost the value of an adjustment. Well, I'm a chiropractor. So just like things started to get commoditized, right? Because everybody was advertising for the cheaper deal. And so it was a race to the bottom. So how do I keep my value? How do I keep my, what I do in the office? And the education took it just not a big step, just one step further to empower. The education empowered the patient. So I used to call it a doctor-doctor relationship, not a doctor-patient relationship. That was one of my bits. It's not a doctor-patient relationship. It's doctor-doctor, because at the end of the day, it's your body and we're a team. We come together. And so we made them play a role in their own health. And the value, they had so much more value and trust because of that. And if they were to say, hey, this is the office that I want to take care of myself or my family's health, that was the trust part and the value they got from the education. The education built confidence. They had more control. They were more aware. They weren't talked down to. They were talked up to. And they knew, like, listen, your health's your greatest asset. And they were able to play a great part in getting well.
And do you feel that shift today? I mean, we have a lot of doctors that are becoming more aware. I think that is the shift, because the whole system's kind of broken. So you did this before it was cool, right? And now it's becoming more cool to actually think in these terms, right? What tips can you give doctors to make the shift from the old way, which is insurance is just going to have people come in and you're just going to, they'll wait. And if they can get the front desk attention, then they'll say, oh, go sign in over here. And, it's a very different experience than when you go to a cash pay clinic where people really get a more bespoke experience. Do you have any tips for them on how to transition, not just their own mindset, but the staff? Because you have a big staff that you have to lead to do that.
Yeah. First thing that comes with making a decision. And a decision, anytime in life, we take our time to make a decision, or we wait for things to be perfect, the money to be perfect. Things are never perfect. And the thing is, we have to realize the results come after the decision. The results come after the commitment. When we make a commitment and we let go of the other choice and we're all in on this one, then things start to open up. Because if I don't, Jen, if I have one foot out the door and I'm just trying it, it's a cluster. That means we're doing some cash, we're doing so much, and the staff is confused. So the inability to make a decision creates the confusion for patients and docs. So once a doc makes a decision, then he casts the vision, and then the vision is casted upon the team. The team, some will get it, some will not. And then that's part of transitioning over. So will you lose some people? Yes. So you got to think the long term. Sometimes you're like, well, so-and-so may not like that. They'll think of the 2 people, 3 people who won't like it, but think about the 30 people that you'll help in a much greater deal. So you have to understand, anytime I make a decision, whether it's for the good or for the not so good in my life, there'll always be a little bit of collateral damage. That little bit of collateral damage is that little bit of resistance that the doc says, see, I told you this was a bad idea. I knew it wouldn't work, and then they resort back to what they were comfortable in or certain in. So if it's you need 3 things to take control of this. Number 1, you have to have the desire. So a doc has to really be like, I am sick of this game. I would love to just go in and practice cash. Have the desire. Then you have to assert your claim. This is what I'm going to do. That's the decision. And then you need to go claim it. You need to go do it, right? So without those things, it's so easy to kind of like wake up one day and teeter-totter. So I felt that the toughest thing in life is to make the decision. But when you choose to make the decision, then you go all in.
Yeah. I've seen that with clients that we've worked with too, the ones that actually commit. It's just, I'm going to commit to myself, my dreams, my goals, and the purpose that I have on this planet, right? My divine purpose in this is to help people. And I feel like if I do this, I'll be able to help them more effectively, right? And when you really lean into that, then the rest falls into place and the staff will fall into place. But I've seen with leadership, if you're not really certain, if you're wishy-washy, then staff will naturally go, this is a lot of work. This is going to be different. We'll just probably go back to the old way. And they will match. They will, the thing, the social media thing is matching energy, right? Mm-hmm. I will notice that staff will definitely match energy. It does come from the top. for that. So when you were able to lean into that and the staff were on board, what do you think was your biggest aha moment once it started to happen where you thought, "Oh, this is really going to work well?" Because I'm sure at first you weren't certain. You had committed, you leaned in, but it didn't happen overnight, right? When did you realize I made a great decision and this is what we're going to be doing from now on?
Oh, the first $4,800 pay in full.
Oh,
It
really?
was a Tuesday. I made the decision on a Tuesday morning,
Mm-hmm.
and then I did a report that Tuesday night. It was just and the first person who signed up, then it's real. And yes, I need to cover. Yeah, I mean that was probably May, and by July, everybody else's insurance that were in it ran out. So there is a little bit of transition, but the transition is those people are already kind of the couple people grandfathered in. But July, like the last insurance bill was July from previous plans. But yeah, I made the decision, and when you see it works, and that's what life does to you. It'll test you,
That's interesting.
and a lot of times we have a story. So a lot of docs may have a story about insurance. The story is this: people only want to use their insurance. That's a story, right? We tell ourselves, and our worldview becomes that story. So if that's the story I believed, I could shift the story. People are willing to pay out of pocket for their own health to take control of their health, and they'll do it every single time. And then that's the news story, and you want to live in that news story. But then life tests you, and if you don't take my insurance, I'm not going to do it. And you might have a couple people that don't do it, and you're like, see, and you go back to the old story where, like you said, once I make the decision, then there's no failure, there's just learning experiences. And so I realized, well, I need to address this insurance objection. I need to pre-frame it early on. I need to pre-frame it in the day one, in the consult, gently and respectfully, and really paint that picture for the person to where they're at least open to it and they understand why we do there. And then I got bolder and bolder, and then you get more bold. And when you get more bold, you don't really have to say much. Your conviction and your confidence and your certainty speaks thousands of words. And the staff, you're right, leadership comes from the top down. If your staff smells or gets the hint that you're full of it, they will lose all respect for you.
Yeah, it is. They can smell the fear, right? But
How many times have you consulted? I've consulted many docs, and I always like to talk to their staff. And for sometimes the staff feels like they could talk to me. It's not that they talk crap about their doctor, but I see a tremendous incongruency. So it could be from the doctor doesn't even live healthy their lives, or if they're chiro, they don't even get adjusted them. So you get to see a lot of incongruencies, and the staff sees this and they hold it back. And this, you know what? Even they might not say it, but their actions and their interactions with patients will show it.
Yeah, what core value that we talk about a lot here at the company behind Super Clinic is actions are greater than intentions. And you have to be in your center of power when you're a clinic owner and understand that you're a leader and that all these people depend on their kids eating and them having a roof over the head because of you. It's a great responsibility, it's a burden, but it's also wonderful too because you're able to really show up in the world as that sort of person. But if you, just like in any relationship, if you start to waver or anything, you're going to make them very nervous. And fear is not a good place for a staff member to be in. It's not a good place for anyone to be in any relationship. So you have to think about that ahead of time. What are some ways, because you're so forceful, and I feel like you just have a natural force of nature, right? But what are some ways that you are able to, you've had really incredibly daunting challenges in your life, and I'm sure you've had a lot of fear. You're human, right? How are you able to combat that to where you consistently show up to your staff and the people that matter to you in a way that puts yourself as a leader? What are your tips for that?
Before I answer that question, one thing that definitely helped me with the transition was coaching. Anything I did in my life successful, I had a coach. Bodybuilding, but people say, well, Chris, you know how to work out and eat. Sure, I know I do, but I like to have a third party kind of perspective. Coaching, you have an amazing practice. Why would you need a coach? Exactly. Tiger Woods has a coach. Michael Jordan had a coach. The coaches don't have to play better sports than they are. They just need to know things to be able to show them and make them aware, blind spots. So having a coach walk me through, be like, okay, This is how you go to cash. This is what you do. So it was nice to have someone to keep me accountable and kind of give me the, hey, oh, you're experiencing this. I felt that too. You're going in the right direction. So sometimes a coach helps you bridge. Now, for resiliency, just in my life, like I realized, and this is kind of my take on it now, we all have faith, meaning that there's no fear. So faith is the evidence of things hoped for, but the substance of things not seen, right? So we're hoping for it, but we don't see evidence of it yet. That's the definition of faith. So when you look at fear, fear is just faith, but you're hoping for things that haven't happened yet that don't serve you. So I don't see the evidence of a patient not signing up, but my fear is a form of faith. So when I realize that faith is a law, and we all have faith, that means fear, there's no such thing as fear. Like if I jump out of a plane with a parachute, I might fear the parachute won't open and I'm gonna hit the ground. I'm actually putting faith that will be the outcome. I'm hoping for something that hasn't happened yet, nor do I see evidence. Or I could be like, well, I have a great parachute. I bought the best on the market. It has the best. We tested it, and I'm going to pull this, and it's going to open up, right? So faith and fear haven't happened yet, so everything is faith. We're just hoping for things, so it's the mental thing. So after a while of going through a situation and going, wow, I feel scared. Okay, that means I'm just in my mind, I'm actually focusing and hoping on something that didn't happen yet, that I have no results over. And then I realized that, it takes courage. So before you have certainty and clarity and confidence, there's courage. So courage comes from, that's the tough part. Courage means I'm moving forward even though I feel and I'm hoping or thinking it may not go right. So that means I'm going to do it anyway. So before we hit confidence and certainty, which you see in a lot of movers and shakers, their confidence all started with courage. Courage is always, there's a stair step to confidence and certainty, and it's courage. We all have to be courageous. And courageous doesn't mean, that means I'm scared, I'm going to do it anyway. It's different, it's new, I'm not certain about it. There's a lot of uncertainty. So uncertainty isn't fear, it's just like stuff we're not used to. So when you do that through repetition a lot and be like, okay, listen, wow, that sucked. Okay, well, how do I course correct? How do I pivot? What skill do I need to learn? Knowing that, like, I'm not going to say this situation is going to further create a case for my old BS story that's going to keep me from moving forward. And I realized that there was no such thing as fear. I was just putting faith in a non-optimal, a non-optimal outcome. So I was like, oh my God. So it's like, I have control of this thing.
Yeah, there was a great book on that called Who Moved My Cheese?
Yeah.
And in it, when I work with clients, but I do it with myself personally, because I always have a coach and I always have a mentor, even though this is all I do, because I need that, right? And so I asked myself, well, what would I do if I weren't afraid? And it's amazing the clarity that I have personally when I ask myself that question, like, what would I do if I weren't afraid? Well, I would just go and talk to that person. I would go and find this out. I would move forward with this loan because I really believe that I need that my business needs this, for whatever it is. And it's amazing just to ask ourselves and to acknowledge the fact that am I having a limiting belief in there that is keeping me from moving forward? I think that's a big one too. You had talked about a lot in the sales process too, how those sorts of beliefs and those sorts of fears might come through when a doc is talking to a patient, right? So you're there in the close, you've got your day one and your day two, and then you get these, objections. And usually there are things that you can take care of ahead of time, like you said that you did. I just came up with my strong case about this is cash pay. We did the test on this. By the time they came back in the day two, that was not going to be an option, an objection for me. So are there any other tips that you can give them to move through the mental fear of, I don't think this person has it, or they're going to say no, or,
It's really tough to go in generalizing people that they don't have it. And that's why doctors lower their care plans. They do all this other things. So I love the pre-framing objections in the consult, because no one's defensive at that point. I think doctors, they do their consult and it comes to the time and they just give them the price and they hold their breath and cross their fingers. No, that's stressful. Like, why don't we have this conversation now? It's a mature conversation. So like, does your spouse know about this? She knows you're here. So like, oh yeah, is this a reason? Do they play a huge part as one of the reasons why you want to get better? Yeah. How's it affected you? Well, we don't go out much. We used to dance. We don't garden anymore. So would you say they're on the top of the list of why you want to do this for yourself? Yeah. I go, and I go, and that's the exact reason why they can't be the reason why you don't get this care. So that's why they're going to come with you for your next appointment. And I tell them, I've seen too many times. You come here, I show you everything, and they're the ones who decide. Or men. I go, have you ever heard the term like, heavy is the head that wears the crown? I go, it's not that the crown's heavy. If there's a lot of pressure on a man. Now, if you to go home and ask your wife, that's putting a lot of pressure on her because you're the breadwinner. So whose responsibility needs to be? So I'm big on responsibility. We're in Texas, right? So Bible Belt, have you prayed about this? Yeah. So why do you think you still have this problem? I go, does God not answer prayer? I go, or maybe I found that it's probably still in your control, like diabetes, maybe it's not prayer. Maybe you just need to stop eating the sugar, right? So I do these concepts. So I talk this, but we didn't talk finances yet. And like I told you before, all the root of all the objections is fear. Mm-hmm. Fear with money. Oh my God, what if if I can't replace the money? Or maybe I don't have enough. Or, right, it's all fear. Or a lot of times people they feel this is another program I'm going to start and not finish. They don't have faith, confidence, belief in themselves. Or their spouse that says, nope, you're not going to do this because their spouse doesn't believe them anymore. They started so many things and they didn't follow through. Like, is this another thing you're going to start and stop?
Yeah.
Of course your spouse doesn't trust you. So a lot of times you have to understand you're dealing with, but the cool thing is it just takes one decision to turn years of that failing behavior around. And for that patient, it's going to equal health. It's going to affect their family, their finances, their being, their relationships. And just tell them, like, you could turn this thing around once, but you just got to take control over it. So that's a beautiful conversation I have with them. And then, listen, not everybody's going to put their health as the number one priority. Even though they say their health is the number one priority, no one's ever told me it hasn't been. But at the end of the day, it's like, I only could do 50%. But Jen, at least let every doctor go to bed at night going, I did my part. See, if you just kind of wing it, if you don't practice it, and a lot of times doctors like, well, I practice. And I'm like, well, how do you practice? And what it is they read a sheet of paper of kind of a script like this. And I'm like, I told him a story of my son who was in karate. And he did the bow. And he won like national, world championships with Chuck Norris. It was great. Wow. And one day he was practicing the bow, but kind of going in his head. And Jen, he was doing it kind of like half speed, like you would, like in your mind, like he's rehearsing it. And his sensei comes up to him. He's like, is that the way you're going to perform it in front of the judges? And my son's like, no. He's like, you never practice, only practice the way it's going to be performed on the day of the competition. Meaning that practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So sometimes they'll just read it, but it's like, I'm not really like, there's body language, stand up, do it, rope, like always practice and be prepared because it's the repetition. So when you do go in the room and someone throws a curveball, like you don't have to go off script. It's just part of you. So I realized that, I treat myself as a professional athlete. Like we practice between performances. That's how we get better. Like we stick to the fundamentals. And I think sometimes too many docs, they go in, they wing it, or they rely on emotion and they get caught with their pants down.
Yeah,
they're not ready.
They won't role play it. I had a good coach. His name was Rich Gurman. He was just a fabulous coach and mentor. And he's still out there. He's written many books and now he's basically saving the wildlife of Laguna Beach. He now works his passion. But he was out of a divorce. He had went to Key West for no apparent reason, lost his shirt in real estate. The ex took it, didn't know what he was doing. And he saw this personal trainer who just had this look on his face. He said, the guy just looked like he knew what was going on. Great shape. And he goes, I didn't have a pot to piss in, but I went to that guy and I said, I think you need to be my trainer. And he said, he kind of gave me a really kind of hard time about it. And he said, okay, I'll train you. And he said, it was something like $1,500 a month. And he said, at that point, I didn't have anything. He goes, and I just ate out of cans, but I just felt like I needed it. And he said, one of the things he made me do was I was on the treadmill and he suddenly said, I want you to run on the very back of the treadmill, like the back roll. And he goes, I'm going to fly right off. He was like, no, you're going to really focus. Because look around the gym. How long is that lady over there who's reading the newspaper as she's walking? How long has she been in the gym? And he said, well, she's been here, since I've been coming 6 months. Has her body changed? And he said, no. He goes, what about that guy with the things on, listening to music and whistling? No. He said, it's because their mind's not in it. Your mind has to be in it. You can't zone out. So when you're running on the back of that treadmill, you're going to be doing exactly what I wanted. And he said, within 6 weeks, he said, my body looked completely different because my mind, I wasn't just going through the motions. And I feel like a lot of times that's what we do. I do that same thing, and I know docs do the same thing. We go through the motions rather than stopping and saying, I'm not getting what I want. And I know I'm supposed to do this. Am I doing this the best I can? Because in business, the first thing you should do if you're not getting results is, what can I do? What am I doing right now? Can I do it better? Then can I do it more? And then can I do something extra and adding on? And it usually seems like what they go to is the extra first, the shiny object. Can you talk about a little bit about that?
Yeah, you just nailed it on the head, because let's say you're in practice 20 years and it's easy to be like, I've been doing this 20 years, I could do it in my sleep. So it become mundane. So you kind of lost the spark. So the blinky and shiny is exciting again. I'll get this new thing, I'll say it differently. But like I think last time I talked about the Michelin star restaurant.
Yes. Oh,
right?
yes. Mm-hmm.
Michelin star. That soup is number one. Every time you eat that soup, it is the exact same recipe. Even though a new chef didn't be like, well, maybe I'll add some cilantro to it. They're like, no. For 20 years, we cooked the thing the same damn way because that's what we get. So it's like success is the ability to do the mundane over and over and over again. And the thing is, even though you've been making the recipe for 15, 20 years, a doctor needs to practice making the soup over and over again. But I've been making it for 15, 20 years. I know how to do it, but still practice it. For instance, like I play the piano, right? So I took a couple months off. I get on the keys again, and it's weird because my brain and my fingers are moving, but they're not hitting the keys, the right keys. There's that disconnect. It's rusty. Like we get things because we give them. So if we continue to train and to focus and to practice, that's how we keep the power of that. So if I didn't practice thing or didn't do the fundamentals in my office, it could sound like I'm doing the same thing, but a little thing's off here, a little thing's off there. A couple months later, it's a totally different thing. So it's like, all you have to do is practice, keep that plate spinning to make sure you're delivering that same 5-star experience. And you don't take your foot off the gas. And the worst thing, I've done it so many times, is I went for something blinky and shiny because emotionally, wow, it was exciting again, but not necessarily successful. So a lot of times we have to know like you said, what's successful, and the results show what success is. Like you'll be known by your fruit, right? So look at the fruit, look at the data. What's it say? If the data is not saying what you want to say, the fruit is getting rotten. So we got to fix the seed. So look at the fruit, and the fruit will tell you what we are doing. Is it getting us where we want to be, or it's not? And sometimes you just can't go the emotion of like, this one gives me more of a dopamine hit. That's why people leave marriages. They think something's going to be better on the other side, versus like the note every day, making your wife coffee every day, writing her a little love note, like those little things done, small things done daily over time, beautiful marriage. So it's like, it's doing the fundamentals and the basics over and over again, just like bodybuilding. People are like, isn't it hard? I'm like, no, it's like, I know that if I walk on a treadmill, if I eat a certain way and I train 5 days a week, right? And in 16 weeks, I put my head up and I'm where I need to be. That it's very boring, very mundane, very like unsexy, but it gets the result.
Yeah. So that's interesting. And one of the fundamentals I would say is tracking. Like you have to know what your goal is, and you have to ask yourself, well, if I want to have patients that are happy with me, they love me. I want to have, patients who really just love me, to ask yourself, well, how do I track that? Is
So
it
what
going to
would
be
you say? So
referrals, reviews?
What's a couple metrics that determine if a patient is satisfied? Like one could be they refer people, or they get their family checked, or they could fill
5-star
out a survey.
reviews.
Huh?
Yeah. 5-star reviews. How many
Yeah.
have we gotten this month?
They do a testimony, stuff like that.
Yeah, testimonies are huge
They
now.
become lifetime care. Oh, they're so happy with me. What happened? Where they go? Oh, they just stopped coming. Well, if there had something was off, like are they lifetime members? Are they on maintenance? So these are all like very big signs. A lot of practices don't have a very big maintenance practice. So, and they don't want to look at the data. You're so right, because the data, it stings, but it's so useful. So if you could look at it constructively, you're like, okay, great, there's the data. So we know the priority to things to work in, and then it just takes a couple shifts. And again, that's where coaching comes into play really well. Because like, okay, listen, hey, I've done the same. Let's just focus here and here, implement those two things, and then we'll look at the data. And then we'll know if we need to pivot or keep on doing the same thing. Very simple stuff, math.
Yeah, very simple. Well, guys, we are at the end of this incredible conversation with Dr. Chris Zaino. Chris, can you let people know how they can find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram. I'm always there at Dr. Zaino. Or, I have a really cool program coming out called clinicsuperpower.com. Check that out. And I think a lot of you guys that are looking to, educate more, like it was based on like, how can we bring our uniqueness and talents to the public so we're just not overlooked and we're not lumped into all your other competitors out there. Like what makes you unique, what makes you different, what's your vision, and have that stand out so they start building trust even before they walk into your office.
Well, then you heard it. You go to clinicsuperpower.com, correct? Okay, great. And guys, if you want to see us, don't forget to go to superclinicproject.com. Be sure to like, follow, and share, and give us a 5-star review. It's how we get world-class, amazing, inspirational leaders in healthcare like Dr. Zaino to our show. Thank you again, Chris. This has been absolutely phenomenal.
Thanks, Jen.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Super Clinic Project podcast. If you like what you hear, subscribe and stay tuned for further episodes of the Super Clinic Project podcast.